from you, Brad. You got energy. I'm not ready for this.
Thank you. Thank you, all you beautiful people in the studio audience, and of course, you listeners at home. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Dinner in Hell podcast, where two amateur historians talk about fucked up shit from history. I'm one of your co-hosts, Brad the Impaler, and with me, as always, the legendary Ron Maiden. What's cracking, big homie?
And much less energetic co-host.
Well, don't worry. I'm sure I'll die down soon.
Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that's going to take us back to ancient Rome.
Yeah. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the greatest spectacles the world has ever known, a true blood sport. We're going to be talking about the motherfucking Gladiators. Not the American Gladiators.
Oh.
Unfortunately. That's not old enough yet.
We're not talking modern LA.
Yeah, we're not talking about 1990s Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in, I don't know, like 20 years or something like that. Episode like 2052.
Oh my God, we're going to be like old as hell and be like, today we're going to go to 20th century Los Angeles, California. Thank you for sticking around with us at Dinner in Hell. If anyone's still doing podcasts still.
They're recording live from our retirement home.
We're in a cabin. America is no more. Food's hard to find.
Here in the USSA.
But we are going to we're going to go back to yesteryear. We're going to discuss American Gladiators, a television program.
There were heroes amongst us once. Men exalted and women exalted above us as a yardstick by which to measure our abilities. We're talking about Nitro and Laser, and Diamond and Sky and Lace, Malibu.
You haven't seen a human killing machine like you until you've seen a man like Nitro swing a double bopper-ended friggin' bopper stick on the top of a pedestal.
No greater test has there been for the indomitable spirit of humanity than the assault course.
Until you've seen Turbo friggin' do the monkey bar like hand to hand hanging from your hands, where you track them down, you grab them with your legs and tug them until they fall down. Until you see Nitro take a man, a regular working hard blue collar man from New Hampshire, make him fall into a foam pit. Are we talking about Gladiators still?
Oh yeah, we should probably get back to that. All right, so everybody has some degree of familiarity with what the gladiatorial contest is. More or less, like everybody has the image of two men with armor and swords facing off. They fight for a little while. One of them wins, and then they look up to the emperor for a gesture. And most often in movies, you'll see a thumbs up, meaning that the losing gladiator will be spared his life, and a thumbs down, meaning that that gladiator will be executed. In most reportings from historical sources, a thumbs down actually means sparing the gladiator, and a finger pointed to the sky would be a signal to execute the down gladiator.
So the winning gladiator looks down at the down gladiator, who's like, I give. He's like tapping out, and he's like, you gotta freaking take his throat. Of all the topics we've discussed so far, hey, at least you're gonna die quickly. It's not like you're getting killed by a lion.
No,
you're fighting a human. You're fighting a human here, you know.
Well, that was part of the gladiatorial games too. There were two types of gladiators that participated in beast combat, and those would be the bestiarius, which were a little bit more fair than the other kind, which were the Noxi. The Noxi were condemned criminals, so they would basically just be tossed to the animals or used as like cannon fodder in other types of battle reenactments inside the gladiatorial arena. They were supposed to die. The Bestiarius were supposed to have skill, and they were trained to fight animals. And some of them were very good at it, though the Bestiarius generally had a pretty short career. Well, let's talk a little bit about the origin of gladiatorial combat in Rome.
They would have it, like, say you did a crime, like you stole something, or maybe you stole an animal, or whatever the crime was. Treason even, who knows. So you're in the big old Colosseum, and they have an animal in there, a wild, like, big game animal, or probably maybe giant dogs or something, who knows. But so they just put a regular untrained criminal.
Yeah, they'd probably give him a spear.
Yeah, and,
but he would be like up against a tiger.
Yeah,
or a bear. Like, I wouldn't fancy my chances up against like a big dog, even if I had a spear, let alone a fucking bear.
You said their career wasn't very long. If you were was it Bestiario?
Bestiarius.
Bestiarius. You said their careers didn't last long, but there was one case where there was a guy that was like the badass Bestiarius. Yes,
there has been some famous Bestiarii. One named Carpophorus, who is renowned as the best Bestiarius. He, in the opening event, Munus, which is what a single gladiatorial event was called, the games.
Mm-hmm.
He, at a single time, managed to defeat a bear, a lion, and a leopard. 3-on-1. He took them all down. All he had was a spear.
Not only those animals, wasn't there like something even more crazy?
Yeah, later on during the same day, he also fought a rhino with a spear and won.
All in one day.
Yeah.
Man.
Donald Trump's like shitbag son would call that like a great Saturday afternoon, except he'd have a fucking like rocket launcher to do it with.
You're talking about the shitbag son of his? That one? Gotcha. Man, that's the first time we've talked negatively about. There's some CEOs that have like pole barns filled with taxidermied animals that they go on like African trips with.
Yeah, but they have guns and guides, and the animals are like tame that they're killing.
Like that coffee table, there's an elephant's lower leg, like the foot with a cut off with a table surface on top now.
Yeah, like I get hunting. I get it.
If you're hungry.
Yeah, but like I don't get trophy hunting.
I don't get
it's like let's just go on out for the sheer joy of killing something.
Or to see if I'm good at shooting. Like I'm going to go hunt deer because they're overgrowing their environment. They're overgrowing their territory. Like they're going into the suburbs.
Yeah, it's like, if deer don't get hunted, they'll starve to death anyway. So that's why there's a legal system that supplies a certain amount of permits and all of that, and that's why poaching is shitty.
Control the population.
But like if somebody's like those canned hunts where they just have like a tame animal that they release and then you just slaughter it.
The freaking cage door opens up, panther comes out, no teeth, no claws. It's like 20 feet away from you. You're like,
boom. Like got it. Fucking super high powered rifle.
He gets it in the foot and he's got like blasted a couple times to death.
Yeah, I don't even know why that would be fun for people, but I don't know. The gladiatorial games were full of shit like that, and it was... I gotta tell you though, taking one of those animals down with a spear is pretty goddamn impressive.
Gotta be pretty accurate, like where you're poking it, because you probably have one shot.
Mm-hmm.
I bet his arm was all chewed up from like tiger biting his arm, and he was probably like under its belly, like while it bit its arm.
Yeah, it was probably like exceedingly action movie badass.
I bet he had like he may have had armor. Dude, we're gonna do a show on friggin' Bestiarius.
I saw a depiction of him, and actually a lot of the depictions they have of gladiatorial combat and a lot of the information they have about it comes from Pompeii because it was so well preserved.
Pompeii?
Yeah. Wait. That's where they found a lot of the shit that they know about gladiators, because they found like the advertisements, they found like odds for gambling, they found all kinds of information about it, all kinds of pictures at Pompeii.
Wow.
Because the gladiators, though they were slaves, would garner a large amount of fame They were in a lot of ways very similar to modern professional athletes.
They were,
aside from the fact that, again, they were slaves. They were not free people.
the thing that's crazy is like they're slaves, and yet they went to like gladiator training schools. Mm-hmm. So like basically they're being trained to fight to the death. They're training slaves to learn to fight to death. That's like the last thing I would train a slave.
Oh, and there were a lot of slave revolts because of that too, led by skilled, like talented fighters, one of whom I'm sure we'll get to in the future by the name of Spartacus.
The movie Gladiator.
I assume it's 100% fact.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
I haven't. Russell Crowe.
Mm-hmm.
Is he Spartacus?
No.
Okay.
Plays Maximus Decimus Meridius, who I don't think is a real person, but I could be wrong. I don't know. It's an entertaining enough movie. I'd give it a look.
Yeah.
If like you're feeling like a historical epic.
Yeah. Sometimes, because I like Game of Thrones is, you're waiting for Game of Thrones, and then like you're sick of watching Troy. No matter how much how much of Brad that they show in that movie,
it's never enough.
That's like, okay, Achilles. I mean, geez, we get it. The movie where Christian Bale is Moses.
Didn't see that one.
I think it's called Gods and Kings.
Moses 2: The Revenge.
And it was pretty cool. I'm not like a religious person, but I still watch it. I don't know. It's on cable.
And Christian Bale is usually good too.
Yeah.
But we should probably talk a little bit generally about what the gladiatorial events were and where they came from. Like I said, they were called munus or munera as the plural. And what it sort of started out was as a funerary tribute.
Yeah.
So like the way they thought of it is when a Roman citizen died, there was a debt owed to them by everybody collectively. So somehow, like in order to honor them in the very, very early instances of this, they would have fights directly at the person's grave. And it would generally be like one super well-trained elite Roman soldier versus like a weakened, emaciated prisoner of war.
Yeah.
And they would just pretty much slaughter him immediately. So that was supposed to like lessen the debt of Rome to the deceased citizen.
They gave a life.
Yeah, something like that. And they venerated like the glory of Rome. It increased morale. Like, because like, yeah, like one of your Roman brethren has died, but oh, look how badass we are slaughtering some foreigner. And this popped up in the Campania region of the Italian peninsula south of Rome. So it's likely the influence is a little bit older than Rome. Like in Campania, like we said during the Pompeii episode, they kept sort of a Greco-Roman kind of hybrid culture. So there may have been some earlier Greek influence on these practices too. And this was around 300 or so BC is when these started popping up. The earliest example that we have is Brutus Sceva, who had 3 pairs of men fight in the marketplace to honor his recently deceased father, Brutus Pera, as part of the funeral rites. And, I mean, as you can imagine, and is still true to some extent today, people love sports. And in America, football is super popular and super duper violent. I would say NFL players are the closest thing to modern day gladiators that we've got.
And UFC.
That's way better of an example. Thank you, Rod.
Well, I mean, still, football is the number one sport in America. So, like...
Yeah, and mixed martial arts rapidly growing in popularity still, I think.
I mean, I immediately thought of boxing, but then I thought, well, boxing's going to kind of push out of the way by UFC. I used to watch boxing all the time.
I've been watching a lot of boxing videos lately.
Yeah.
Like, God, Mike Tyson was a monster.
Yeah.
He destroyed people.
It was so fast,
He's
too.
like an unstoppable. He's got to be the fastest heavyweight of all time.
There's like 2-minute fights all the time. You go on YouTube.
He's just like
Black shoes.
crushing people.
Black shoes, black shorts, that's it. Like no robe.
No, nothing.
Just stare the guy down like, no, you're going to die today.
Iron Mike.
Maybe you'll live. Maybe you want to be dead after this fight because you might have brain damage.
I really like. You get a lot of good quotes from Mike Tyson too.
I want to eat your children. Praise be to Allah. Yeah.
My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. I banned lots of ones that I can't repeat the words of.
I got one right now that's just... let me just say it in a clean way. I'll make love to you until you...
Return
are
affection for me.
Homosexual man persuasion.
I'm a big fan of Mike Tyson the boxer, less big fan of Mike Tyson the human being.
You couldn't last 10 seconds in my world. The real man.
I don't think I could last 10 seconds in his brain. But the gladiatorial events have other things that continue to influence our modern day world. Well, the person who's in charge, who's sort of running the show, like the MC of a Munus, is called an editor. So we still got that going.
Let's get ready. Can't say the rest.
Yeah, not all of the gladiators were slaves, just most of them. And the schools that they trained in were called Lannister. Sounds like Lannister if you have an accent.
Lannister.
Yeah, the House of Lannister.
Hey.
They're big over here in Staten Island, right?
Hey, I'm over here at the House of Lannister here. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's Tyrion, this fucking midget.
Hey, it's Freddy Boom Boom, right? Hey, Mr. Carter. So, shit. I'm over here, shit. I'm over here at the Lannister, shit. Freddy Boom Boom's crazy, right?
Yeah. Jesus. Well, but as soon as the gladiatorial fight started, they started to gain popularity like crazy. Eventually, they were all over the place, even as far as like Roman allies in the Iberian Peninsula. They were having them North Africa, way over in the east. They were everywhere almost immediately.
You know, although I've lived my whole life in Michigan, I have to say the Iberian Peninsula is hands down my favorite peninsula in the world. Have you ever been there?
Spain? No.
Portugal?
Nope. I've been to the United States and I've been to Canada. That's it.
Okay. Florida?
I've been to Florida.
Florida is one of my top 2 peninsulas. Florida and the Iberian Peninsula are my top 2, and then Michigan would be third.
Upper or lower?
Lower. Yeah, upper is a little bit of attitude.
Yeah, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, excluding all of the nature,
and excluding
reminds me of the interior of the Floridian Peninsula.
Excluding all of the Dinner in Hell listeners and Twitter followers in the Upper Peninsula, we love you. I mean, we're not talking about you.
Yeah, of course not. You're listening to the show. Obviously, you're cool. But I've stopped in like some gas stations
Copper
and
Harbor.
like convenience stores in the backwoods of the Upper Peninsula that have made me feel like I was definitely never going to leave those gas stations and convenience stores.
I am the sheriff, boy.
Yeah, like Northern Deliverance style places.
Like, what was it, Vacation? When he's like, "What's the sheriff think about this?" To the mechanic, he's like, "Boom!" He's got the badge. He's like, "You're looking at them. You're looking at them, sir. All of it."
Small towns or no towns. Like if it's just like a county territory road that I'm driving on, I'm generally not comfortable. I've seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one too many times. I don't know what you weirdos out there are doing. But you do have the open space to be able to freely play around with guns, which is something that I'm jealous of. So you got that going for you.
You could hide bodies everywhere, anywhere in the UP. There's so many places. If you had to like hide a body. I mean, there's so much wild woodland.
Yeah, like up in the Porcupine Mountains.
I mean, you're just gonna you're gonna be due west of the Tequamanon, all right, and then Porcupine Mountains. That's a good start. But
go down to Marquette, hit the Ambassador, get one of those fucking delicious Mexican pizzas they make there.
You want to first get a pasty?
Yeah, we're talking a little bit of shit, but we know it. We've been there.
Hit up
it's with love.
You're gonna want to hit up Whitefish Point. That's just past Muskellunge Lake up there in Lake Superior Coast.
Catch a tour and see the painted rocks.
Definitely, you're gonna want to see the painted rocks. There's a big old Paul Bunyan giant statue. I don't know, is that the Lower Peninsula?
Yeah, I'm talking shit, but I will put up with any amount of hill people to look at Lake Superior. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in the world.
Cold as hell, too. I swam in it once. It was like the hottest day of the year when I was a kid.
Yeah, I like it when they have those rock formations out there. Swim out there, and it's fun. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Full of weirdos.
Okay, so what we just did was a sponsored ad from Pure Michigan. We're trying out something new, everybody. So that was a pro Michigan ad. I don't know if we're trying to be natural. We're trying to sound natural. Let us know if you'd like it. Back to gladiating.
Yeah, so the events generally included like a procession. There was musical accompaniment. There were beast hunts, there were one-on-one fights, there were basically executions with the Noxi who were condemned there, and there were also recreations of battles. Like, they would recreate famous Roman battles.
Yeah, did they also do a navy battle too?
They did. In the Colosseum, it was rigged with like aquifers and stuff so that they could flood the Colosseum and recreate naval battles. They would have full-sized ships in there.
They would like somehow have water lead to it from like the sea.
Yep, and they would flood the Colosseum. They'd have ships in there, and they'd recreate naval battles. I wish I could see that. That shit would be incredible. If somebody could
they couldn't even do that now. People wouldn't even do that now.
No, it'd be so goddamn expensive.
I know. It's a lot of water.
Speaking of expensive, the Munera were generally seen as gifts to the public by either some sort of local official, or later on in Imperial Rome, the biggest events were put on by the emperor himself. And they often came with other gifts, like they would distribute meat to the common people. They would have just straight up money that they would give out sometimes. And the thing about this too is, as soon as that notion of what the games were took hold, it sort of strayed away from being a funeral rite and part of the ceremony to its own kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And because people quickly became adjusted to it, and if it's a gift from the emperor, it better be the best.
Yeah.
So the quality was constantly piggybacking and getting bigger, better, and all that over its whole history.
So like this new ruler comes in, he wants to win over the popularity vote.
Yeah, he's got to be bigger and better than the one before him.
He's like, look, I'm going to bring in a freaking giant crocodile and a skinny little one-legged man. You're going to love this, I promise.
There were, in 216 BC is sort of the first real large-scale munus that was put on. And that was put on by Consul Marcus Aemilius Lepidus with 22 pairs of gladiators facing off, and it was done in honor of his sons. This took place over 3 days.
22, so like 11 against 11?
Mm-hmm. But I in one-on-one fights still. But just over 3 days, they had 22 fights.
Wow.
Scipio Africanus staged another 3-day munus in 216 BC with more than 120 gladiators to commemorate the casualties of the Punic Wars and to raise Roman morale right after the defeat in the Battle of Cannae, which we talked about in episode 3.
what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to SoundCloud.com/Dinner and Hell podcast. You're gonna go through the tracks. You're gonna find Battle of Cannae.
And then you'll listen to that and realize why they were having such bad morale.
Yeah. It's a little cliffhanger. Did you read that link I sent you about how to do cliffhangers?
Yeah.
Cool.
It was... I wish I could have got the ending of it, but I think that really would have hammered the point home, but that comes out next week.
Yeah, to be continued. It's always like a to be continued, but, you know.
Yeah, and because of sort of the honor of spending the shitload of money to put on one of these events, they became a way for Roman citizens who wanted to get ahead to self-promote. It was like if you wanted to gain some renown, or if you wanted to gain votes to be like the tribute of the plebeians or something like that. If you wanted to win an office that required votes, putting on a games could bump you right to the top of the list because people loved it. They couldn't get enough of it. Entertainment were probably relatively scarce in ancient Republican and Imperial Rome.
This just goes with, you think about the biggest main event is such a violent act. Again, the constant running theme on our show, we're discovering that our entertainment is less violent. Like, we used to watch people like kill each other for sport in front of us with blades and against, and now we're just watching them like throw a ball through a hoop.
Yeah.
Really hard. Jump
and even our blood sports aren't that bad.
Yeah, they have gloves on, headgear and shit.
Sometimes. And whenever somebody dies, it's never according to plan.
Right. Someone dies, it's like, you took it too far. Mellow out. I don't know.
What are you going to do? Price of playing the game.
Going back to when you were saying that they honored the fallen from the Battle of Cannae to like up the morale, they had like even bigger number of gladiators fight.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there a famous Roman who even upped it even bigger than that?
Oh yeah, a Dinner in Hell recurring character who's definitely going to get his own show sometime in the near future.
Dinner in Hell spin-off show series.
But it'll be a sitcom.
Yeah.
Well, Julius Caesar played a key role in jacking up the intensity of how insane the Munera were. In 65 BC, he put on a munus to his father, even though he died in 85 BC, which kind of makes the whole connection to like the funereal thing kind of a joke.
Like 20 years later.
Yeah, he just came up with an excuse to do it.
Yeah.
Well, he had 320 pairs of gladiators in silvered armor.
How long did this last, do you know?
I didn't say.
Oh, okay. Because the one they were like, 22 in 3 days. Like, 320.
Yeah, because a typical gladiator fight would be anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes.
And he probably is throwing like 5-on-5s in there.
Yeah, there was probably some shenanigans
battle
going
royal.
on. Some beast hunts, some battle reenactments, stuff like that.
What was the weapon, the spiked ball and a chain? Is that a mace or a ball and chain?
That's a maul, I think it's called.
I think that weapon would suck. I'm telling you, I'm going with the spear.
Well, it was the maul. Oh man, the maul was developed for medieval combat. So in the medieval times, we're talking about knights. Knights had full plate armor. Sword was useless. The only way you beat knights is with pure bashing power. You want to collapse in the armor. And a maul's real heavy, and it's got those points on it, the spikes. So you get all of that force driving down into one tiny spot, and it can buckle and punch through armor. Because sword ain't going to do nothing against someone in plate armor.
Yeah.
Unless it's heavy enough that you can bash them with it.
Yeah. But I think I'd go with spear if I was a gladiator. Like, you have distance and poke them.
I do think it's important to note, too, that the gladiators survived like a lot of the times. There was even whole moonuses that went without a single death. Especially like if they fight well and the crowd's pleased, they would prefer to see them live. If they were cowards or if they got their asses handed to them, then
put the elephant out there. He'll get him.
Yeah, so I suppose we can talk a little bit about the types of gladiators who fought in the battles.
Yeah, there's different conditions, different...
almost like classes. Like if you're playing a video game, there's like different classes of gladiator to pick.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if they win so many, they have to go into prestige mode. They go back down to like a loincloth and a little knife, but now they have like a star above their heads.
Yeah, a tattoo on their shoulder.
Well, first, there's the Andabata, and this is a really fucked up class, and I would really not want to play this one because they were either blind or blindfolded.
Again, what weapon would you want? Or what if there's no weapons? You just feel around and then kill them with your hands.
I'd probably go for like some sort of whirlwind strategy.
Yeah, that's where the maul would be perfect. You just swing that thing around.
Because I definitely don't have fucking Daredevil's powers.
Right. Next.
Yeah, there was also an unarmored fighter called the Cestus. And the Cestus is named for what he wore, which was basically like a boxing glove, except generally affixed with iron plates or blades. Again, don't want to go into this cosplaying Wolverine. It doesn't sound like a high chance for victory.
What if he did Cestus and blindfolded, though? He just swinging these fists around with blades on him, like, pillow. You ever did a pillow fight in the dark with your friends or anything? Cover up the windows so no sunlight comes in, shut the door, and just freaking pillow fight it out. You never did that in the dark? You get a pillow fucking to the face, like out of nowhere.
I don't know how much you want to get into your sexual awakening on this program.
Pillow fight in the dark, man. As kids.
No, I don't think I ever did that. Plenty of pillow fights, but pillow fights tend to end in tears.
Yeah, especially in the dark, because you're just standing there and all of a sudden, woof, a freaking pillow socks you.
Yep, eventually someone takes... And in the dark, I imagine there's a huge vulnerability to nut shots and open face shots.
The thing is you go low, you crawl on the ground, and then you just randomly stand up and hit and get back down. That's, yeah.
All right, we'll do that after we're done recording.
Demacharius.
Yeah, however you say that. Demacharis.
Oh, okay.
They dual wielded
two blades,
two swords akimbo. This sounds pretty badass.
Spin around in a circle.
Yeah, you could do like some Jet Li type shit with it.
Yeah, I would probably squat down with one arm raised out and one over my head curled, like two blades pointing at you like scorpion.
I'd pretend I was a crab. Only walk sideways.
Walk out with them in like an X shape across your chest, like don't even try it.
Yeah, also sometimes in the arena, man and animal worked as team.
Like on a horseback?
Yep, in the case of the Equitus, which was basically a cavalryman, a lightly armored man on a horse, and he had a spear or sometimes a sword and a small shield. And there was the Acidarius, who fought from a chariot.
Okay.
Sign me up for those.
Chariot to view it or to participate?
If I'm forced into a Lannister and I have to be a gladiator,
where you gonna park your car?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Shoot. Hey, I mean, right?
Yeah, if I had to, maybe I feel less vulnerable if I'm trucking around on a horse or getting towed behind one in a chariot. I feel like my chances of living are going up.
Yeah, you want to be... That's a freaking wild freaking chariot ride. It's not like you're just cruising. Yeah, you're like rickety.
Yeah, if it's still better than like being blindfolded.
Yeah. At least you're not fighting a horse.
There was also the Hoplomachus, which was modeled after the Greek fighters, the hoplites. So they had a small shield, an arm guard, greaves, sword, and a spear.
I know I should know this since I am a co-host of a history-based podcast, but what are greaves?
Greaves are like shin guards.
Oh, okay. I'm amateur, though. Let me just say that.
Yeah, I play a lot of role-playing games, so I know where the equipment slots are.
Okay, when there's Marmillo. I'm reading it. It's if I'm saying it right, it's Marmillo, right?
I think it's Marmillo.
But since I'm like from a Latin background, I would say Marmillo.
Yeah, Don Marmillo.
Marmillo.
The Norteño Gladiators.
Marmillo. What was that one?
Well, they were sort of like the heavy fighters. They had a large oblong shield. They had the biggest shield out of any type of gladiator, and they had a full helmet. One arm guard. They had greaves. But all these people are in loincloths and a little bit of armor, basically. Some of them have no armor. But the Marmillo was kind of the big, beefy ones. They had a gladius, like the legionnaires would. Sword. It's a sword. It's the legionnaires' short sword. Yeah. That's all there is about Marmillos. There were the provocateurs, which were the only people in sort of the heyday of gladiatorial combat that had actual Roman armor and arms. They were the only gladiators that got a breastplate, and they only fought other provocateurs. They were restricted.
I thought you were going a different direction with provocateurs. I thought it was going to be like nude, like, hey.
Dancing.
I'm not wearing anything right now except armor. Oh, I could tell you're a provocateur.
Well, gladiators were also sex symbols in the Roman culture, just like famous people are now. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
And they were scantily clad.
Chiseled features.
They were in good shape.
Like, you know how people are like, I want to have a body like a gladiator. I mean, they were gladiators. I mean, geez.
Yeah, why not? Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Heavily scarred and constantly in danger of dying. There was also the Retiarius, which was an unarmed fighter who had unarmored. The Retiarius was an unarmored fighter who used a trident, a net, and a dagger.
The trident's the 3-prong?
Yep.
Was this guy like nautical? Is he like, they dress him up like Aquaman, like nautical themed gladiator, trident, fishing net?
Yeah, and they would. There was also the Sagittarius, who was a mounted archer. Scratch the other two. The mounted archer sounds like my wheelhouse if I was a gladiator.
You gotta be able to shoot a bow.
I can shoot a
on
bow.
Horseback. What are you, freaking Mongolian all of a sudden? Genghis Khan over here?
I'm not saying I would be any good at any of these. I'm just saying that sounds like what I would... Gun to my head, I'll be a Sagittarius.
Yeah. Tell me about the scissor.
There is some controversy about the scissor type of gladiator. I found some information that says they fought with a 2-bladed short sword that was designed to sort of trap and be able to disarm their opponent. The other description of a scissor has them with a long steel tube that completely enclosed the forearm, and they had a semicircular blade affixed to the end of it. So like with a punching motion, you'd be slicing. Like
a sickle, like a reaper's sickle?
Yeah, like almost like half of a saw blade, like half of a circular saw blade.
I wonder how they got the name scissor. I mean, what we call scissors.
Yeah.
Why would that forearm kind of thing have that name? That's weird.
Yeah, it is. A very prominent gladiator type was the secutor.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the same as the Marmillo, except they got a rounded helmet with very small eye holes. That was because the secutors were like a counter to the Retiarius. So the rounded helmet, the net wouldn't catch on it like it would catch on other types.
Mm-hmm.
And the small eye holes were designed so that you couldn't get the trident in the face holes. To make it an evener match, I guess. Because the Gladiators were pretty successcul, I think. The net, I think, was a very successful weapon.
Probably could have been just a bunch of little holes, instead of, punched like a whole bunch of little holes. So it's still smooth on the surface.
Yep. There was also the Thrax, which is the exact same as the Hoplomachus, except instead of the sword the Hoplomachus used, they used a curved Thracian sword. So probably more like what I would imagine is a saber. Or like a scimitar. They got helmets too. And then finally there was the Velites, which they fought with a spear on a rope so they could pull it back and throw it again and again and again.
Nice. Like, what is that video game where the dude shoots the, come back here.
Oh, Scorpion?
Get over
here.
What is that called? Street Fighter?
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat, yeah. Get over here.
Come here.
Gladiator. Was Mortal Kombat what inspired this episode? Never mind, it's stupid.
I didn't even make that connection, but I did love that game.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but was it just men, or wasn't there also women that would fight in these things?
It was not just men. Women were gladiators as well.
But weren't there cases where they treated them as kind of like a joke and they put them against like dwarves?
Yeah, the women gladiators weren't always taken seriously. A lot of the times they were. And they fought in gladiatorial matches just like the men would, but in other cases, yeah, they did kind of treat them like a joke, and they'd match them up against like little people.
Which kind of still stands true today when you think of girl Cheryl Swoops and the WNBA.
Yeah, not often taken seriously, I suppose.
But so yeah, the people would be like, "Oh, we're gonna have you fight dwarves. We're gonna have you fight half a man, honey. Listen, sweetie, tomorrow's your big gladiation. Tomorrow in your gladiation, you're gonna fight half a man, okay, sweetie."
So all like condescending and shit like that.
Yeah, like, okay, honey.
Oh, what a bunch of ancient assholes. Yeah, so I suppose we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the premier gladiator arena, the Colosseum. Construction of the Colosseum was completed in 80 AD and seated up to 80,000 people.
Damn.
I'll fall into this trap sometimes too, where I sort of over primitize people. In the history, I think they're way more primitive than they were. Like, they built a 80,000 seat arena that could be flooded to have boats in it. Like, by any stretch of the imagination, that's an incredible construction feat.
Yeah, to have it be watertight sealed. I mean, okay, so like, yeah, and then to actually have water led there from like a natural water source through plumbing.
Yeah, and it was given the name the Colosseum because it was right next to another incredible construction feat, which is a 100-foot tall bronze statue of Nero.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when the Colosseum was originally constructed, it was called the Flavian Amphitheater. But we started calling it the Colosseum because of that statue of Nero, the Colossus.
Okay, yeah.
The first bout in that arena, we already talked about Carpophorus, the Bestiarius.
Yeah.
The very first bout in this arena was between two gladiators named Priscus and Varus. The two fought so bravely, such a long time, and they were so evenly matched that at the last second, they both together conceded. They both gave the signal that they were done. They were given in. They both gave in to one another at the exact same moment, which they would signal that by a single finger pointed to the sky.
Yeah.
And the crowd was so crazy about it. They loved the fight so much. And so did Emperor Titus. He gave both fighters what's called the Brutus, which was either a wooden rod or a wooden sword that would symbolize their freedom.
Yeah, they're done now.
Yeah. If you fought so well and so bravely, you'd get awarded this rudis and you could retire from being a gladiator and you were a free man.
So, yeah, so you're free. So, you're no longer a slave. You no longer have to fight and to be a gladiator. Now you're like, you run into one of these guys like 5 years after they're done. They're like freaking dad bodying it up.
Yeah.
They're like, shit, man, I ate so many grapes. It's crazy. His retirement's awesome.
Yeah, I wonder if they like blow through all their money like athletes do now.
They're doing like signings and shit. Like, come on, you can come out and see so and so.
Yeah, I'm going down to Campania to the Naples Trade Center for the convention.
You can hold his wooden sword of freedom.
Yeah, and they're all just looking there all sad, waiting for like the autograph session to begin.
There's like 3 other former gladiators on his little tablet he brought, his stone tablet. Like, oh, will you sign my stone tablet? I'm just a big fan of gladiators.
Yeah, for 5 talents, I'll stand here while this guy etches a picture of us in.
Talents. If you don't know what talents are, shit, you gotta learn your history.
It's money. When a gladiator did go down, they signaled defeat, but they did not please the crowd or the emperor or the editor if it was during the Republican period of Rome. The victorious gladiator would execute the down gladiator. And this was accomplished via a stab through the neck down to the heart. At least it's fast. We don't usually get to say that on this show. All right, so not only slaves, sometimes there's a lot of people who volunteered, and some of the people who volunteered were also emperors of Rome.
To fight?
Yeah, some of them fought in the Colosseum. One guy who's probably definitely going to get his own shot at a Dinner in Hell show, Caligula.
He fought?
He fought in the Colosseum.
I mean, what if you beat the emperor? I'm sure your ass is going to get killed.
Oh, no. They didn't allow that.
Okay.
Like, it would usually be like a setup. So, like, they would either both have dulled weapons. The emperor's opponent might only have dulled weapons. They weren't setting up emperors to lose these fights. Some of them would just hunt from, like, a raised platform. So they were never in real danger. But they did it. Caligula did it. Commodus did it. Hadrian did it. And so did Titus, who was the emperor when the Colosseum opened. And I think we ought to go out talking about probably the biggest badass gladiator of all time. His name...
Was it Nitro?
It was Flamma. Yeah, Nitro. Although I was partial to Laser as a child, named a dog after him.
Diamond, did you say? Diamond was one?
Diamond.
Ice.
Ice.
Yeah.
Sky. Jazz. I could probably name 20 American gladiators right now.
Freaking leotards.
Yeah.
So who are we talking about?
Flamma. He was a Syrian slave gladiator. And he fought 34 times. He wasn't undefeated. He fought to 9 draws. He lost 4 times. And he died at the age of 30 in the arena. But... he was offered the rudis 4 times, and he was like, no thanks, I'll just keep being a gladiator.
Jesus.
The dude just fucking loved him some gladiatoring.
Oh. Yeah.
Could you even imagine that? Like, you're just like... you were fighting almost for your life. Like there's probably like a 30% chance you're not making out of this day alive, and someone's like, here you go, we're so happy with what you've done that you're free, like you get to retire, like you're done doing it. And they're just like,
you can shove this wooden sword up your ass and stay in.
Nah, I'll just keep on trucking. Let me go back to being a slave, go back to my half prison, half gladiator school, and we'll keep it going.
At least they didn't like really challenge the guy and like put him against like 2 rhinos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, all right, fucker.
Yeah, like they weren't dicks about it, I guess. Although it doesn't say how he died.
Like, oh, you want to mock us with your 3rd rejection? Okay. See how you fight, 2 freaking bulls that are pissed.
Yeah, well, if you're transported back into time and you're going to have to fight and you're going to have to go through the assault course, you've got to get to those stations. You got to shoot those Nerf guns at the target.
Yeah.
You're going up against some of the most insane gladiators Los Angeles has to... Oh, never mind. I'm talking about the wrong thing again.
We should seriously have a meeting and sit down and talk about possibly opening like Dinner in Hell Gladiator Park. You know how there's paintball courses, but we'll have like actual arrows, bow and arrows, friggin' American Gladiator setup, but with real primitive weapons.
Yeah, we'll get the legal department on that because there's probably like an 80% chance you don't make it out of that gladiatorial experience alive.
It'd be for like people that are terminally ill. They can go out in a blaze of glory, with a spear in their chest.
I'm with that. So. Well, if you were transported back in time to the Colosseum, what kind of armor would you want? What chances do you think you've got to make it out of there alive? Why don't you let us know by tweeting to us at dinnerinhellpod? You can email us at dinnerinhellpodcast@gmail.com. We're at dinnerinhell.com. We're on Facebook. We're on SoundCloud, YouTube. Please don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes. Thanks for listening.
Dinner in Hell band killing it. Audience.
Oh, they're killing it. Thanks to the audience. The studio audience has been great. Thanks to all the listeners at home.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Ron.